We just showed, we showed the van pulling up. We showed all this. And I said, I don't have a professional team for you. It is, and I asked you this a couple of weeks ago, and you were totally honest. You said you were disappointed they didn't draft Deshaun Watson. You were totally upfront with it.
Yeah.
But what is it like? Tell me what it's like. Your favorite team has the best player in the world and is likely to win again next year. I've never been in that position. What is it like?
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable because of the context of what the Chiefs had been my entire life before it, which was not like a sad sack franchise that never competed, but a team that was the worst type of team to root for. Consistently good in the regular season, get your hopes up, and then inventing ways to lose. Like, since Joe Montana left, they had 3 seasons. They were 13-3 in the 1 seed and lost a home playoff game. John Elway beat them in the fourth quarter twice. They lost a 18-point lead to Marcus Mariota in the playoffs. They lost a 28-point lead to Andrew Luck. They played the Steelers in the playoffs. They scored 2 touchdowns. The Steelers scored 0 touchdowns. The Steelers won that game. That was my life as a Chiefs fan. And then this supernova comes in. Yeah. And here's the thing, Colin, that what legends of the sports change how we see sports. So I want to bring up Brady and Mahomes, not in a GOAT comp, but in what they both have done to our brains. So before Tom Brady came around, all of NFL history, when down 10 points in the playoffs, won 11% of those games. 11% of those games was a 10-point playoff comeback. Then Brady came around and won almost half of them. It was 8 and 10, I believe, in those situations. And he changed the math on, like, oh my God, you could be down double digits in the playoffs and have a coin flip chance. Mahomes has won 5 of 7 of them. Mahomes, the fact he wins 83% down double digits. In all of Super Bowl history, every quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, when down double digits in the Super Bowl, is 2-48. Tom is 2-1. Patrick is 3-1. What these two guys have done to change what we think is realistic within the game or realistic within a ring count, which was Montana, Bradshaw forever, 4. Impossible to get more than it. Then Brady damn near doubles it up, and Patrick almost has it before he hits 30, and we're like, well, who knows? That's what it is. And the fact that it's my hometown team, and as you were gracious enough to mention, the fact that, he shouted out the show and me moments after winning the Super Bowl. I mean, it's almost as cool as the first time I was on your show. It's probably number 2 career moment right there. That's it.
Well, I'm honored to be right behind Patrick Mahomes. I said this earlier. I think you would have loved this segment. I said we tend to love what we relate to. And Jimmy Garoppolo looked like a movie star. He was traded for and coveted and got crushed the entire time. He was always to blame. Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant, making nothing. We relate to him. If you go to their 27 starts, and Purdy had an all-star cast around him, they're virtually identical. Purdy averaged 29 a game. Garoppolo averaged 28.9 a game.
That's pretty good.
Purdy is more efficient simply because he has 4 to 5 Hall of Famers around him. Both Garoppolo totally blamed for missing a deep throw, as our staff showed earlier. Purdy missed 2 easier, shorter throws in the end zone. As somebody who beat both, I view Garoppolo and Purdy. Brock's more athletic. Garoppolo's probably bigger, stronger. But it's interesting how Garoppolo was blamed for this loss on a 55-yard air-it-out throw, whereas man beat the other by 1.5 yards. Purdy got a pass on much shorter throws. The second, this is the first, he missed badly on shorter throws. So your takeaway on the big gap, the perceived gap between the well-liked Purdy and the bum Garoppolo?
Well, listen, I do think Purdy is better than Garoppolo. I also think I don't think Garoppolo was, from people around him and from coaches you've talked to, I don't think necessarily pre-snap he was the sharpest quarterback in the league. I don't know if he put in all the work that they necessarily expected. So I think Purdy is better than Jimmy G.
Yeah.
But the way they are discussed, you would think the gulf is enormous. And what is so odd to me is so many of the folks who love Purdy, when Jimmy G was winning games, they would say he had this magic winning pixie dust, and then he goes to the Raiders, that dust immediately goes away, and now they are fine with saying, no, he was not that good. I do think Brock Purdy played well. Relatively well in the Super Bowl. He is not the reason they lost. I thought the Chiefs were going to have a massive edge in the turnover battle because I thought Brock was going to make a couple egregious mistakes. He didn't. And for $1 million a year, obviously he provides massive value. The question is he ever going to elevate to where if you have to pay him and then you can't have the cast of Avengers around him, can he elevate? I have my doubts there, and I think the point you made last week is it's one of those, sometimes people make a point and I'm always jealous I didn't think of it because the moment they say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's obvious, but I hadn't thought about it. Everyone assumes, oh, he's in year 2. He's going to have this massive incline of growth. When you're a 4-year starter, as you put out in college, physically limited, are you more likely going to be closer to your finished product in year 2 than a raw athlete would be in year 2? I think the answer to that's yes. So I think that, and Brock is way better than Mac Jones, but Mac Jones was similar spot. Longtime college player, physically limited, accurate, supposed to be smart. He never got a 1% better from his rookie year. Who he came in as is who he is now. Yeah. I do wonder if Brock is if he reached his ceiling quickly, and if we're not going to see as much growth as you would see from a more highly touted prospect.
So we may disagree on this because you are mathier than me, and you compartmentalize. You're a great poker player, so I think we'll disagree. But I have been in this business 30 years. And I don't know what a single button or lever does in the control room. The orchestra conductor cannot play the clarinet. I don't know if my flood insurance works. I don't know how my accountant does with my taxes or my stockbroker with my mutual funds. I make it, give it to them, and I try to get somebody that's ethical. But we pay people in society to do things for us. Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid knew the overtime rules. McCole Hardman didn't. Kyle Juszczyk didn't. Basically, the NFL doesn't come out and go, okay, guys, field goals are worth 7, touchdowns 3. No using your hands. The league changes overtime every year, and Andy and Kyle know it. But not every player does because, guys, catch it on offense, don't fumble, and tackle on defense. And I'm okay with that. If the coach knows and the quarterback talking to the coach knows it, I don't need my 24-year-old McCole Hardman bouncing around the league guy to know everything. Are you bothered the fact that Niner players are like, we didn't know all the rules?
So, all right, a couple things. I'm a little bothered, and I'm not sure that McCole didn't know the rules. McCole has said that is fake news, Colin. He said he claimed he blacked out. He says it's not that he didn't know the rules, but he blacked out. It was such a great moment. And I'm just telling you what the man says. Chris Jones, said the Chiefs had multiple meetings about it. They knew what the strategy was going to be. They knew the rules. He actually explained the rules quite eloquently because the rules were, of course, changed because of a game the Chiefs were in. So let me ask you this, because I'm now going to throw something at you that I don't know that you've considered. Because you're saying essentially, what does it matter if the Niners know the intricacies of the rules? They're just going to try to do their best no matter what. So Kyle Juszczyk thought it was score a touchdown and win the game. Yeah. It obviously was not. What if he had? and he rips his helmet off and starts doing snow angels, and the Niners pour out onto the field, and all of a sudden they're kicking off from the 1 because they got the most unsportsmanlike conducts in the history of the league because everyone thought they just won the Super Bowl. Or even if that doesn't happen, there is obviously emotional letdowns in sports. If you're a Niners defender and you're watching them drive the field, do you have an element of, all right, we might not even have to go out there? All right, oh, wait, they scored. We won. Oh, wait, hold on. Now it's the biggest drive of my life against Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, I don't think it is a cardinal offense, but I do think the Chiefs were a little more buttoned up, a little more prepared.
Yeah.
And I think that you could see that in various spots of the game.
Yeah, I do think the official did say what it was. Even the announcers were trying to put their arms around it. I also think over the course of a sideline or a game, this happens a lot of times. You talk to a player, hey, if we win, veteran players, kids. So I do think over the course of a drive, you would discuss it among your players. But I said this earlier, the average play, these are 24-year-old young men. You want them to play hard and fast. I do not want too much up in that parking garage. I don't want them to know go play hard, go play fast, you tackle, you catch, don't fumble, get out of bounds. So I'm I think a little more lenient on it, but I think your point is well taken. Finally. Yeah. Is there anything about Kansas City next year? Three-peat's never been done, which if you're a me and grew up with the Steelers in the 70s, and they were so dominant for 9 years, it's inconceivable they didn't win 3. So there's a psychological factor. There's a hunter to hunted factor.
Yeah.
There's injuries. Mahomes now has paid a fortune. Is there any little thing about the Niners that you're a little worried about going for a three-peat?
Oh, well, about the Chiefs.
The
Anything worried
Chiefs.
about the Niners?
The Chiefs.
Okay, got you. I was going to say the Niners could be still the best team in the NFC, but Brandon Ayuk seems a little unhappy. I wonder if the Niners are going to have a bit of that Super Bowl hangover. But so there is one first level concern, and then there is a historical concern. So the first level concern is this: is Chris Jones going to be back?
Right.
Chris Jones is universally accepted as a great player. With this Super Bowl, I think he's punched his Hall of Fame ticket because he's the best defender on a dynasty.
Yep.
And I still think he might be underrated, Colin.
I agree.
He was. Josh Allen had, I think it was Shakir, in the end zone right before the missed kick. He couldn't get it there because Chris Jones bumped Deion Dawkins into him. Brock Purdy had 2 guys open in overtime. He couldn't get it to him because Chris Jones was flying at him. So if Chris Jones leaves, that is a massive void. Now, L'Jarius Sneed also could leave, but the Chiefs have McDuffie. They develop and draft corners so well that you feel like that is maybe a little more replaceable, even though Sneed was extraordinary start to finish of the year. That's the level one. The historical one would be this: why didn't other teams do it? So I went through it. So if we just go kind of modern era of football, Colin, so post-Steelers, because the Steelers, the reason they didn't do it the first time was because the Raiders beat them and the Raiders were juggernauts right alongside them. And then the next year they had a lot of injuries and then retirements. Why didn't the Niners do it after 89? Because they lost one of the greatest football games ever played on a field goal at the end to the Giants. You know what I mean? Like a team that was of their caliber beat them in a classic. The Broncos had Elway retire, so throw that one out. The Patriots in 05 just weren't that good all year long. And I left out the Cowboys. The Cowboys, why didn't they do it? Because the other team that was right there with them, the Niners, finally got them. So the question is there a team right now, right there on the Chiefs' heels, that it will be their time and their turn? And everyone's answer is yes, Nick. I know the answer to that question. It's the Buffalo Bills, which makes me so excited for the 4th straight year of everyone saying, this will be the year. This is the time they break through. This is the Niners in 94, or this is the Giants in 90, and everyone can believe that. And the time that Josh Allen beats Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs will be I guess there's a first time for everything, but I'll believe it when I see it. I said last year on this show, on your show, the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, I said that last year's Chiefs team was going to be the worst team the Chiefs had until Kelce retired. This year's team appeared to be worse and then was better in the playoffs. With Kelce coming back, even though, sorry, J-Mac, he wasn't one of the 10 best players in that game. Sure looked like it to me. Even with Kelce coming back, I think they're going to be overwhelming favorites for a good reason.
Okay. By the way, I do think Chris Jones leaves, don't have inside intel, and James Cook and Dalton Kincaid are, to me, next-level players. So I did have a very early herd hierarchy. I did a very early herd hierarchy. Kansas City is still very viable at the top.
This guy, unbelievable.
James Cook.
I mean, of course.
Dalton Kincaid.
James Cook, what are you going to do? Oh, yeah, and I'm sure Stephon Diggs is going to be very happy of this offseason. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about there. I mean, you know what? I will say this, and then I know you got to go. The media is, and I get why some players get frustrated. I'm sure Stephon Diggs is like, man, I one time throw my hands up on the sideline to Josh Allen. It's a meme for 18 months. Travis Kelce almost does an elder abuse to Andy Reid, and everyone's like, they love each other. Everything's fine. It's not always fair. I get it. They win the championship.
I defended Kelce yesterday on that as well. Maybe I just like Kansas City. There's so many players. Even Mahomes, Andy Reid, I like them. I'm sorry.
Of course.